All right, it is now 6 o'clock, so we will convene Beavercreek City Planning Commission for the month of February 2021. And with that, I guess we'll need a roll call.
Mr. Ayers?
Here.
Mr. Height?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Mr. Self is absent. Mr. Loftus?
Here, and we will need a motion to excuse his absence.
I'll motion to excuse Mr. Self.
In a second.
Second.
And general consensus?
Aye.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is approval of last month's agenda. Were there any additions or corrections from last month's? I'm sorry. I need to approve the agenda for this month. Were there any additions or corrections for this month? Nothing?
We're good.
Okay. With that, I'll need a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
And general consensus?
Aye.
Yes. The last item before we get into our public hearings would be approval of minutes from last month's meeting. Any additions or corrections? With that, then I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I'll second.
And we'll also do that by general consensus.
Yep.
I believe I have to abstain, yeah?
Yeah.
Says that.
Oh, yes.
That's correct.
Okay. So we have 3 yeses. With that, we will open our public hearings for the February meeting. We have 2 cases. They both will allow for public comment if anyone has anything to say for, against, or just in general about the proposed development. Please limit your responses to 3 minutes, and we'll be more than happy to ask a lot of these questions of the applicant or the city if you have some pertinent things to bring to us. With that, I will go ahead and let staff.
Mr. Chair, do we have to excuse Mr. Self?
We did.
Oh, I'm
We did.
sorry.
We did. Yeah. We already did.
We rolled right through it.
COVID brain still. We're just going to keep racking them up today. It's number 2.
This is case number PUD 06-3, specific site plan number 5, on an application filed by Walla Communities, 160 West Main Street, Suite 200, New Albany, Ohio, 43054. The applicant requests specific site plan approval to allow for the construction of a 114-unit, 94,000 square foot assisted living / memory care facility on 5.25 acres. The property is located at 2500 Grange Hall Road, further described as Book 1, page 11, parcel 67 on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
And with that, if the applicant could step up and if they have anything to say in regards to this hearing. And if you could, please state your name and who you're representing, please.
Good evening. My name is Michael DiCarlo-Antonio. I'm the Vice President of Development for Walla Communities. So just some information on Walla Communities. We're based in New Albany, Ohio. We were founded in 1966 as a construction company, and today we're a vertically integrated real estate company consisting of development, construction, property management, and asset management. Over the years, we've adapted to the changing housing needs of Ohio and the Midwest, and we've been providing senior living solutions for 35 years. We currently own and operate 8 senior living communities within Ohio. Our 9th is under construction, and we will be opening in June of 2021. We are long-term owners and operators of a property. We're not looking to build and flip. We consider this a partnership with the communities that we develop in. So we take a holistic approach to our senior living development by incorporating building design, services, activities, and cost considerations that not only sustain but help improve the quality of life of our residents. So, you know, the American population is aging at a very fast rate. And by 2040, it's expected to nearly double the senior population. In the Beavercreek area, we've identified 13,000 individuals age 75 and older that are in need for services that we would offer. And as they age, they will seek a living arrangement that provides for high quality service at a financially attainable price point, and also remain close to family, friends, and loved ones. So as was stated earlier, the Ashford of Beavercreek is a 114-unit assisted living and memory care facility consisting of 88 assisted living units and 26 memory care units with 36 beds total in the memory care. The project is located at 2500 Grange Hall Road. And it's located within our PUD 06-3, which is approximately a 27-acre RPUD approved for senior living. We feel that the Ashford of Beavercreek would be the logical next phase in this PUD, as there's an existing skilled nursing facility, Beavercreek Health and Rehab, and another community under construction, Homestead Village of Beavercreek, which is an independent living facility. So we believe that this project meets the purpose and the intent of the PUD by creating the continuum of care within it. The building is approximately 94,000 square feet. It has an AL wing and a memory care wing, and it's joined by a common space which houses the commercial kitchen and other common spaces for the residents' use. The AL wing is 3 stories, approximately 39 feet tall, and it's consistent with the height and the number of stories as Homestead Village of Beavercreek, located adjacent to our proposed site. The memory care wing and the commons are both 1 story, 17 feet tall approximately. There's a 50-foot buffer on the southern property line and along Grange Hall Road. Our site plan shows no encroachment on these 50-foot buffers. Our building is approximately 91.5 feet from the southern property line, 65 feet from Park Overlook, and 140 feet from Grange Hall Road. We have evergreen trees on the southern property line that screens the building from neighbors to the south. And we have 2 courtyards for each wing, which provides secured outdoor space for our residents. Our light poles will be approximately 16 feet to match Homestead. And our lights will use full cutoff fixtures and 0-foot candles of light at the property line to prevent light bleed on abutting residential properties to the south. Our building materials consist of primarily cementitious shake and horizontal siding. Portions of the building will utilize vinyl board and batten vertical siding. We chose vinyl for aesthetic purposes and aesthetic appeal. The cementitious board and batten vertical siding would require several horizontal seams. So by choosing vinyl, we can reduce that number, and we feel it is much more visually appealing than having the vertical seams run through it. And we have provided photos and specifications to the planning department for what we plan to use on those limited areas. With that, I'll turn it over to the commission or the public for any comments or questions that we can answer.
Okay. Thank you very much for the thorough review of the property. Is there somebody from staff to talk us through this one? And I apologize, I've had a bit of a migraine the last couple of days, and I also don't do this very often
That's
because
okay.
our fearless leaders usually here except for the cold months.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Before you is an application requesting approval of a specific site plan for an assisted living and memory care facility on 5.25 acres within PUD 93-06-3. Sorry about that. The property is located at 2500 Grange Hall Road, which is at the southeast corner of the intersection of Grange Hall Road and Park Overlook Drive. So the property is in the southwestern corner of PUD 06-3 and currently contains 1 single-family home that was approximately 1,500 square feet that was being used as a rental. I think at this time it's vacant and will be demolished as part of this approval. There's also a 900 square foot accessory garage just to the north of this that will also be demolished. The remainder of the property is mostly a scrubby brush and then some sporadic trees throughout the site. There's also a detention pond at the northwest corner of the property. That detention pond serves the entire PUD, and as part of this application with this development, that detention pond would obviously be modified to accommodate additional stormwater runoff from this project. So as the applicant stated, the building is approximately 94,000 square feet and has 2 separate wings that are joined by a common area. The east wing is 3 stories tall and 63,670 square feet, and then the west wing is 1 story tall, has 36, it's a 36-bed memory care unit, and is approximately 17 feet tall. And then the common area that links the wings that has the main entrance is 10,625 square feet. So the building does consist primarily of fiber cement siding that's used horizontally and in the form of shake, and then also board and batten vertical siding. As the applicant stated, we always have a little bit of apprehension when it comes to vinyl siding. So we talked it through with the applicant, and he did actually provide, let me see here, a sample of what it would look like. It's not kind of the typical vinyl siding that we normally think of. And based on the fact that it's only being used as accent features, throughout, we think it kind of creates an attractive aesthetic that still keeps that residential nature. And then also, the single-story part of the facility will have a brick wrap around the entirety, and then the 3-story portion has much larger expanses of brick across the entirety of that part of the building. So it's staff's opinion that the building will fit seamlessly with the surrounding construction that's occurring within the PUD, and also will blend well with the residential development to the south. As far as access and transportation goes, there is one access point that comes off of this private drive off of this circle on Park Overlook. So there's just one entrance here. The applicant is proposing to install sidewalks around the entirety of the site that then connect out to Park Overlook Drive as well. And then also 65 parking spaces are being provided. The code does require that there be 65 parking spaces, so it requires 40 parking spaces for the facility plus 25 more for employees. So there are actually 60 off-street parking spaces and 5 additional handicap parking spaces for the 65 total. As I stated previously, there is already an existing stormwater pond here. That'll be adjusted to accommodate additional stormwater, and per usual, the city engineering department will require that all of their stormwater runoff meet all of the requirements of the EPA and our engineering department. Regarding landscaping and open space, what we wanted to make sure of first and foremost was that there be a substantial amount of landscaping along that southern property line. With the Homestead of America project that was approved last year, what we did was that we added a wooded area kind of easement that prohibited the removal of a lot of the trees along that southern property line. However, Greene County Sanitary Engineering, which doesn't have to adhere to those requirements, installed some lines through there, and I think if you can see it in this first drawing, they pretty much cleared out a significant portion all the way from Homestead America down to Grange Hall Road of that tree line. So with this application, the applicant is proposing a significant amount of landscaping and evergreen trees 6 to 8 feet tall, which we think will provide a substantial and adequate buffer. However, we also wanted to make sure that what is remaining does stay there at least for now. And so we did add a condition of approval that required that the remaining tree line through there remain, and if there's at any point that there is something that has to be removed, they need to come back to the planning department to get approval. So if there's a substantial tree that might need to be cut down, they would need to get our approval before that would happen. As far as lighting goes, the applicant did state that they are putting in light poles that will be no taller than 16 feet as we require in order to match the Homestead of America to the east, and also to protect the neighboring properties from any light spillover. The photometric plan does show that there will be 0-foot candles at all property lines, and a final lighting plan will be reviewed by staff to ensure that that continues to be the case before we issue any zoning permits. The applicant is not proposing any wall signage. However, they are proposing one ground sign that will be located at that access point off of Park Overlook Drive. That proposed sign will be 31 square feet per side and with a height of 5 feet, which is consistent with the adjacent sign requirements for the Liberty Nursing and also Homestead of America as well. And then finally, we did add one additional condition regarding construction hours, and we limited those hours to Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and that's for any exterior work. So if there's someone going in and doing plumbing or HVAC or something like that, this wouldn't apply, but any exterior work will be limited to those hours to protect the residential properties to the south and then also to the west as well. So based on this, staff is recommending approval of this request with the 17 conditions in the attached resolution. And if you have any questions, I can answer those following the public hearing.
Awesome. Thank you very much. With that, we will open the public hearing. If anyone has any comments for or against, please step up to the podium. Remind you to take 3 minutes, please, and state your name and address for the record. So with that, don't be shy. Step on up.
Hi, I'm Gloria Beavers, and I live on Ellsworth Drive, 3810 Ellsworth. And my backyard is, we have a 6-foot fence, but it's not privacy. We just built the house 3 years ago, and it is a chain link fence, so we see everything. And like she mentioned, they did when they were getting ready to build the other property that they're building on right now, they came through and just like wiped everything out up to almost the fencing. So you see, I can see Park Overlook from the back of my house. Actually, my property is where they come in off of the circle. When you turn and come into the property, I'm trying to see which one. I'm left, to the right. Yes, I think that's my property there. And so, right now they've got a mound. As you're coming in, there's a huge dirt mound. And we're hoping, I don't know now with this building, that maybe that mound will be like that and then putting the pine trees up. They're supposed to be putting pine trees up. And my concern is just with, like, they were talking about putting, I don't know what size she said, 6 to 8 feet pine trees all along there. I thought they were going to be planting, at least with the other property, I thought they were taller to start, the pine trees to be taller. The building I forget what it's called, the one that's being built already, Homestead, is a beautiful building. I sit on my back porch and I can see the whole side of it. It is a beautiful building. So we just had to, figure we'll live with this, but at least it's pretty. But I'm just really concerned mostly about the landscaping up to my backyard and the neighbors on down, the few neighbors that are on down to Grange Hall, to make sure that we just really still keep some of our privacy. But if there is landscaping and we have to see it, it'd be nice that it would be nice looking. And the parking, I don't know, did they say, is the parking to the front? Okay, good, because the parking to the back, on the side, okay. Is it going to be on the side by, okay, because that's like right. Okay, so parking's going to be right there where you had your red pointer? Because that's just not something nice to look out at. And I feel bad for my neighbors up the street because they wiped everything out, and you can just, it's like that's your backyard now. And parking, it's all the parking. You're going to see cars and that. Hopefully, we'll see more of a building that's pretty. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else out in the crowd that has anything to say? All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and I will start. Well, oh, do we have any written input? Oh, we did have written input. All right.
We did receive one letter from John Art. Planning Commission did receive a copy of this as well. His address is 3820 Ellsworth Drive, and the letter had several concerns that he had regarding the case.
Perfectly. Well, I'll give everybody a little bit of time to digest that. And now I will close the public hearing, and I will start all the way to my right. Go ahead and open this up.
So just a question for staff, I guess. So this is from the letter that we received. So that the resident mentions that there's a fence along the property line. Will they be required to remove that?
Yeah,
if it's on their property?
I'll have to take a look at it, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's some sort of old farm wire fencing that's probably interwoven through there. So yeah, we'll make sure that that does come out before they start, doing any. Obviously, we have to make sure it's on their property. Yeah, we'll have to take a look at it and make sure. But if it is, we'll make sure that they do get it out of there.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I had any other questions.
All right. I will just keep working my way around the table here. Mr. Height?
It's probably best if I don't do this, but, so, if I do remember correctly from the last time we talked about this, that southern border does have a berm, right? A hill of some sort,
This one
a mound feature.
Or was that taken out?
This one does not have a mound feature.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a mound. I believe it's almost 4 feet around this part where that parking is.
Okay.
But this portion of it does not have a mound.
Is flat.
Yeah, it's flat.
So in the prior conversations, were they taller trees, just to address Ms. Beaver's?
No, our standard is 6 to 8 feet. When you start getting into bigger trees, they're not viable. They'll die if you put in a much more mature tree. So we always, when we're requiring trees, they're 6 to 8 feet.
Great, thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Well, all right. Chairs?
Thank you, sir. I actually have a couple of questions. One of them is along the same lines that Alex had. So looking at the plans, they note that the screening evergreens on the south border, they say they're going to be 15-foot OC. Does the OC, does that
Offset,
okay.
like the diameter in between them.
All right, so, and will that be sufficient? Because what are they, I know it depends on the
Yeah,
type of
because
evergreen, but-
they'll be, if you look at the landscape plan, they'll be staggered, and then they have additional smaller trees kind of in between.
Okay,
So, and then as they grow, obviously you don't want to put them close together because then they die.
correct.
So you need to give it enough space so that a couple of years down the road, you actually do have a full adequate buffer without missing trees here and there. So.
And they're going to be, the buffering's going to be planted on grade and not elevated, as you stated?
For the majority of it, it is on grade. If you look at the grading plan, at the corners, there is a little bit of a rise. But for the majority of the back of the property that abuts the residential, it will be at grade.
And then the only other thing that I can think of is for the illumination plan, at final review, is that when you will settle the timing of illumination? Because I know we don't want bright lights shining in, especially when it's surrounded by.
Yeah, we had talked about that. One of the issues is that this is a residential property, so you don't really, like normally in commercial properties, we have them reduce the lighting to 25%. That's not really something that we would want to do here because, it's a residential property. But having them at 16 feet, making sure that there are 0-foot candles at the property lines should alleviate any issues or any concerns about any light spillover. And obviously, it's something that we would continue to monitor throughout, and if we got any complaints. We actually, Liberty Nursing across the street, when they first went in, they actually had put in light bulbs that were, I don't even know, it looked like a spaceship. Like, it was so bright. And, we actually went out there at night to take a look at it and take pictures and had them go in and remove the light bulbs and put in lower watt light bulbs to make sure that wasn't an issue. But having the light poles be at 16 feet helps substantially. And then LEDs, because they focus light straight down as opposed to the old lights that spilled outwards, is a significant help for that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I guess we're just going to keep beating this dead horse, but so we keep talking about, is there a way to split the difference and add maybe a small berm? I know that affects how the water is going to flow off the property, but could it be made wide enough to be able to plant trees
I mean,
at a higher elevation so we could add another 4 to 6 feet? Because from a perspective, you only need another 2 or 3 feet before.
yeah, I mean,
you
I think that's a question probably for their engineer to see if that's something that they think would be possible. I
Okay.
mean, I would imagine that because you do have the drive that goes all the way around the back of the property that may create some issues.
Well,
there.
or could we even push that buffer back potentially, like, to get it out of the way of that drive lane or move that mounding
Yeah, I'll have
back
to.
towards the existing residential, maybe closer. And again, that would, from a force perspective view, the closer you get it to their residences, the taller it appears from their perspective. The further
Yeah,
back
I'll
you
have to
place
defer
it.
that to Mr. Lyle.
Okay.
And see if he can answer that question for you as far as
Okay.
what would be possible in that 50 feet there.
And while I've got you on it, so why not use approved materials? I know we've been very anti-vinyl siding, even as accent trim, and the worry is then the next applicant that comes in now has a.
Yeah, no, so
case
normally
that-
we do allow vinyl siding as an accent trim. I think
Okay, we
the
do.
question, yes, we do. The question for us though was, this seems a little bit more than accent trim.
Yeah.
And so when we actually looked at what board and batten siding looks like, we feel that it does meet our standards for
Okay.
the materials that would be
Okay.
used. And the fact that it's not even 10% of the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, yeah, if Mr. Lyle could step up and answer that question for us, see if that is a possibility to help alleviate the neighbors' concerns to the south.
Hi, I'm Steve Lyle from the Ranke Group. We've moved address 63 Road Center Drive, Centerville. The site's tight, and what we've got is some constraints back there. We've got the sanitary sewer that's got a manhole like directly south of the building, and then we've got our drive, which is at 50 feet. And we do have, it's like not really a mound, but it's elevated like a foot or foot and a half by the sanitary, but what I'm getting at is if we put a mound in, we're gonna trap water between the homeowners to the south and the mound. And we've got a sanitary sewer in there, which creates issues. It's not too deep, and then you might have conflicts with the storm sewer, getting that to the basin. It's a dirt-sensitive site because it falls down towards the front. So we did actually look at that and thought that through the landscaping provide a better buffer, because it's going to be so insignificant if we do a mound that I don't think it's going to help out much. One other thing I wanted to point out, on the southeast corner where we've got the parking spaces next to your house, down there, that's kind of depressed. You can see that's about 4 or 5 feet down from the grade. On the grading, when we do the grading. Yeah, so those cars there will be, a little bit lower than the existing ground, so that should help out.
Okay, because I'm not understanding that, because like when I look out my back, it's flat. So when you're saying grading, you have to be digging way down.
That's correct, that's what we do.
So you're going to be making it go down.
Right. If you look at that site, we've got that building, it's all at the same level. So on the right side, on the east side, we've got to cut the existing ground. And over by the pond, we're going to have to make sure it's level over there, so.
Okay. What about additional tree? I mean, is there any willingness, I know that's an applicant question, but is there any willingness to put in additional trees? Does it make sense to, even if it's gonna take 10 years for them to fill in, but to retain long-term value? Is there any willingness on the applicant to potentially add additional screening to?
I think,
to
if
help
you,
the neighbors' concerns?
We already have trouble with drainage too. We had to have somebody come out, and the two neighbors, my neighbor and I, had to have somebody come and do a drainage and everything that is in the back of our yard. And then
And the city will address that when the actual construction, they'll make sure, trust me, that in most cases, in all cases, your drainage should be better, not worse, than when you get an adjacent property.
I just wanted to point out, this drawing shows kind of landscaping a little more mature phase than you might see on the drawings. So we're going to have a good buffer, a good screen. And I have had projects before where we've had to add a bunch of trees for the initial screening, and they grow together and they die. And then, are they replaced, and they start looking, you know, dead, and the pine trees start looking all brown. And so I'll let Mike answer the question, but I think that we've got a pretty dense landscaping plan that will provide an adequate screen.
And I think, as with all concerns in any new developments, that's great that they'll die, but what about the first 10 years as
Right.
they're densifying, right? Then you have to, what are the neighbors, you know, what is that waiting time? So
Yeah.
that's really, I think, just the only concern. So
Gotcha.
just wanted to see if that's something that you guys would be willing to do.
I'll let Mike.
Based on the plan you have, it doesn't look like much needs to be added to it to really, to do that, but I really just would be interested to see what the applicant would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the health of the trees isn't at risk, we're willing to add more trees if we can. We could probably go up to 10, but we're happy to, you know, provide a final landscape plan, present it to the planning department, and then we're happy to discuss it with the neighbors as well.
Okay,
You know,
perfect.
we want to be a good neighbor here. We're not trying to, you know, hurt anyone's home value or anything like that. We're here to work with them.
No, that's perfect. I really appreciate that response, and I think we can leave that up to planning commission, or the planning and zoning department to figure out what's going to be correct there, but as long as we have that leeway, I think that's fantastic. So that is enough of my soapbox. I appreciate you letting me pontificate there. With that, we will need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve. Sorry. I'm telling you, you shouldn't let me talk today. I don't know why we keep coming to me. PUD 20-2 SSP number 1. I'm sorry, that's the next one. This is not going well, Nick. PUD 06-3 SSP number 5
With the attached.
with the attached 17 conditions.
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
That's the easy
part. That was the last of my talking.
All right.
Mr. Height,
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Mr. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Loftus.
Yes. And with that, PUD 06-3 SSP number 5 with the attached 17 conditions, we'll move on to city council. Appreciate everything you guys are putting forward. Thank you very much for putting up with our questions. All right. Yeah. Oh, are they not? Oh, gotcha.
Alex couldn't even figure out to say yes.
I'm leaving. I'm just getting up and
Yes,
going.
no.
We're on TV right now. Just walk out.
What year is it?
My whole life is like this now.
All right, now that we have the changeover in the room here, go ahead and move forward with case PUD. Oh, you're going to make me read the wrong one now, aren't you? PUD 20-2 SSP number 1, the Unison GE site plan. I think everyone's very excited to take a look at this. So with that, if you could read the case for us.
This is case number PUD 20-2, SSP number 1, on an application filed by Unison Industries, 2455 Dayton Xenia Road, Beavercreek, Ohio, 45434. The applicant requests specific site plan approval to allow for the construction of a 280,000 square foot manufacturing facility on 53.483 acres. The property is located on the west side of I-675, north of Research Boulevard, further described as Book 2, page 5, Parcel 2, on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
All right, do we have somebody representing the applicant, I'm going to assume is here? Perfect, step on up. You could give me your name and the company you're representing.
Sure, sounds good. Evening, good to be here. I'm Brian Palmer with Pure Development, and here to talk about the Unison Dayton project this evening. We put together a very brief PowerPoint project overview. Just a little bit of background on Pure Development. We are a commercial real estate developer based in Indianapolis. We do build-to-suit facilities similar to this Unison Dayton project across the country for our clients. We're here tonight to talk about this facility, 280,000 square feet for Unison Dayton. as Melissa mentioned, located in Miami Valley Research Park, right at the intersection of 35 and 675 along Research Boulevard. Site's about 54 acres total. Project's 280,000 square feet. The bulk of that being a manufacturing plant, 240,000 square feet, and has a nice office component, about 40,000 square feet at the front of the facility. We're targeting a very aggressive schedule, looking to start construction as soon as the weather will allow this spring. Maybe a little optimistic with the April 1st, but we'll start as soon as possible with site work on that project once we've been through the appropriate approval process, and then looking to complete the facility just under a year after that, targeting March 15th of 2022. Project team, the tenant is Unison Industries, a subsidiary of GE Aviation. They will be single occupant, leasing this facility from us. We're Pure Development. We'll be the developer, owner, landlord of the facility. We brought a few members of the design and construction team with us tonight to answer any questions. Design builder on the project is FCL Builders out of Chicago. The architect is CSO Architects in Indianapolis, and our civil engineer is IBI Group in Dayton. I'll turn it over to Randy Schumacher with CSO for a brief design presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Randy Schumacher. I'm a design architect with CSO Architects from Indianapolis, Indiana. My firm is a general practice architecture firm. We do a great variety of building types, but I have worked with Pure Development and Brian Palmer, their firm, for many, many years, and have designed numerous manufacturing facilities of this type and various variations of manufacturing facilities around Indiana and around the country, and I've designed one in Canada as well. So it's a building type we know well, and we understand the construction aspects of this building type and how to make everything work. So I'll run you through this design real briefly. So as you can see, the site plan is on your screen. The main body of the manufacturing plant is roughly at the center of the site, and it's circumnavigated by access roads to provide efficient circulation for shipping and receiving activities. It also provides good access for emergency vehicles as well. Visitor and employee parking is on the front or the south side of the building. The one thing I would point out that you don't quite get from a drawing like this, we visited the site today. A few hours ago, we walked through the site, and it was really striking how far back from the road the building is. We had to park down there on Research, and so we had to walk up a hill. So right from Research, you kind of climb a hill that's probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet tall or so of grade change going up there. So it's already kind of looking up toward the site. So passersby on Research Boulevard are not going to have a really great view of the site. So we walked on back, and it's a huge site. The building is way farther back than I expected in person. From the drawing, I thought the building was 100 yards back or something, but it was a good hike to get back to where the building is from Research. Now, there's an area, is this a laser pointer? So right here, we stood right here today at the site. Howard, the civil engineer, brought a tablet computer and figured out we were standing right there. And we looked towards the interstate over here. And I think this plan might not be quite as accurate as it could be, because the trees that are growing there, they've lost their leaves, so they're bare. But you could still barely see the interstate and the passing traffic. And all the trees back through here are very dense, so it's really got a kind of a nice setting, but it's not very visible looking in or looking out. So I just wanted to share those thoughts. So the main truck entrance would be here, and we want to separate traffic for the cars to this entrance because it keeps them separated, and that's much safer. The main detention pond is here, and there's additional infrastructure for water retention that would stay dry outside of that area. We've incorporated plantings throughout the parking lot to mitigate the visual impact of those paved areas for the employees to park. The main entrance is on this corner, and we've incorporated some nicer curtain wall materials there to accentuate the lobby and the entrance point of the building. And there is an employee patio and an employee entrance here in the middle that is used just by employees. So there's a little closer view of what I just described with the employee patio here and the employee entrance and the automobile entrance for them, and then the public kind of formal entrance that goes to the curtain wall lobby area. Another close-up if we need it, we could come back to it. So there's a blow-up of the floor plan. You can see the intensity of all the manufacturing equipment inside the 240,000 square foot manufacturing plant. They'll be bringing a significant number of jobs to this site and making a very significant investment here. The professional workers will work in this front portion here, which is about 40,090 square feet, which has a lot of office workstations and meeting areas. This would be the main lobby here with some meeting spaces and training rooms, a vestibule for people to enter and be tested before they enter the building. They'll have a fitness center over here. So it's really going to be a top-notch, really nice place to work. I mean, they're going to have really nice cafe space right here in the middle with the patio and the fitness center. It's really going to be a great place for people to work. There's a blow-up of the office plan. The exterior of the building, you can see we've spent a lot of time patterning it. These buildings, they're manufacturing facilities. That's what they are. And we build them out of concrete, tilt-up concrete panels because they're very, very durable and they're very strong and they're very efficient and they support the roof. But we can pattern them and paint them, and we've put a lot of detail. They don't need to be patterned that much to be structurally capable of doing their job. But one of the reasons I like to work with Pure is because they have a lot of pride in the buildings they put up. They never come to us and say, build the cheapest thing you can. These guys don't do that. In fact, Brian called me the day after Thanksgiving one year and told me to redesign a building and make it nicer for him. Thanks, Brian. Never going to live that one down. But the point is, they push hard for nice design. They have pride in the buildings they put up, and so do I. So we've got a lot of patterning you can see in the precast concrete panels. We've got clear story windows that will bring light into the manufacturing plant. A nice curtain-walled lobby with a blue canopy system that welcomes visitors and dignitaries and speaks to the GE brand. And so we've used the GE colors and that kind of thing. Here's a rendering looking at the entrance. So that's kind of an overview of the design. Thank you.
Perfect.
Just leave this here.
Thank you very much. Someone from staff?
I always feel like I'm coming out of surgery when I rip my mask off like that. Good evening. The case you have before you is specific site plan number 1 for the Unison GE. The applicant did a good job of going through pretty detailed of what they want to do, so I just kind of want to go through this briefly. Of course, the project's going to be located on the western side of Beavercreek, just to the southwest of the intersection of 35 and 675. The site is currently a vacant site. It's almost 54 acres. The middle portion of the site is farmable, tillable fields, as well as a small portion of the southeastern corner of the site. The building is going to go predominantly in the middle of the site itself. They have just over 1,500 feet of frontage on Research Boulevard and a few thousand feet of frontage along 675 and 35 interchange. As Planning Commission may remember, this property was recently rezoned. It's actually, it was approved, the second reading was approved by City Council at the last meeting. There's a 30-day period, kind of a waiting period between when they approve it to when it officially becomes effective. We're still in the middle of that, so there is a condition that is contingent, or this approval is contingent on that getting through the 30-day period without any referendums is what it is. A 30-day period that the state law requires us to allow the citizens to put a referendum if they want or if they can. This is a color version of the site plan. North is to the left on this site, just to give you a better idea. Again, they're proposing 2 access points to the site. I think this is an easier one to read. The eastern access point is actually lines up with the Greater Dayton construction access point on the other side of Research Boulevard. Right now, that's a challenging site to get out of because there's no median, there's no cut in the median in front of Greater Dayton construction. So if you want to go west, you have to come out and do a U-turn and go around. With this proposal, they're proposing to cut a split in the median so that you can actually get there coming from the west and turn left into the site, and it also affords opportunity for Greater Dayton construction as well. There is an existing cut in the median where they're proposing the western access point. They do meet all the minimum requirements for impervious surface. There's I think a maximum of 75%, and they're well under that amount of impervious surface, as well as the building coverage. They're well within the maximum allowed building coverage, even if they do the 210,000 square foot additional area. They show a little over 325 parking spaces, I think right around the 325 mark, which is a little bit more than what the guidelines of the zoning code state for a building such as this, where it's a 240,000 square feet of manufacturing and a 40,000 square foot office. But they stated they're going to have some overlap in their 2 shifts, because there are multiple shifts. They do run more than just the first shift. So because there's some overlap, they need to have some extra parking, because there'll be more than the standard amount of employees there. Just want to go through a few of the conditions. One was, as they stated, there's going to be a wet pond out front. And as we do with all wet ponds, we want to make sure that there's a fountain or other aeration device. So there is a proposed condition that requires the water circulation device in there, and it needs to be maintained in perpetuity by the owner. There's, again, like I say, there's 2 access points, and because they're going to be cutting into that existing median, we did add that the final design, when they come up to, should this be approved, that the final design be approved by the engineer so that they do meet all ODOT and city requirements in terms of the design of that cut. They do show a preliminary landscape plan. A few things that we were wanting to include was a few evergreen trees or something. That there's some transformers at the southeast corner of the building, so we want to make sure. Again, as the applicant said, I mean, we're almost 600 feet away from Research Boulevard. I think it's like 570 feet or so. So I mean, it's almost 2 football fields. So the amount of screening that's going to be required is minimal, but we just want to see something put there rather than it just be a curb into the landscape area. Also, they do show it on their rendering. That's a different building. They do show some landscaping around the base of the building, but it wasn't on the landscape plan. So we just want to make sure that the final landscape plan does include some landscaping around the base, as well as some landscaping out in front, because they are going to be grading and taking that down. So this is formerly ATK. It was just recently sold, actually, new tenant. This is also on Research Boulevard. And you can see they have some landscaping out front. So that's kind of what we had in mind when it comes to the final landscaping plan. Applicant did a good job about, talking about the architecture of the building. There is that boilerplate condition that we don't want it to be painted or altered without planning commission's approval. That's the what Mr. Self likes to call the McDonald's caveat. So we want to make sure that if they were going to change the color scheme, that would be need to come through the planning commission. Just to give you an idea, they are going to be constructed out of tilt-up concrete panels, and this is the construction type where they bring these walls in. So it'll be an attractive building. The plans do show some argon tanks, as well as I believe the applicant stated it's 150,000 gallon, but the plans show 300. But we never got a final design of that, so we just added a condition that the final design be approved by the planning department prior to release of any permits. You can see, they're located, they'll be 600-700 feet off of Research Boulevard, but we just want to make sure that the final design is reviewed and approved. I anticipate them to look like this, but again, we haven't received any final plans for that. Also, they did show a 200,000+ square foot expansion area on the north end of the building, and so there is a proposed condition that be approved by a minor modification, as long as it's architecturally consistent with what they're proposing on this stage. So that is a proposed condition in the resolution as well. In terms of ground signage, they show one ground sign to the east of the eastern access point, but no other design on that. So we just added a condition that it'd be 6 feet max, 50 square feet per sign face, and that it'd be on a base that's made out of masonry product or other building material that's consistent with the building itself. They did show one wall sign. Now their plans show, I scaled it out, it's about 140 square feet, but we want to, if they want to have additional signage, you didn't want to lock them into only the minimum or exactly what they proposed. So we did add double that to 280 square feet. We don't really look at the design of the sign, it's just the square footage and the placement. If you did a straight manufacturing facility in a straight zoning district based on their frontage, they would be allowed up to 450 square feet. So this 280 is well under what they would be allowed for the sort of straight rezoning district. So it does afford some flexibility in the future if they want to go above and beyond or add a second sign on the southern side. There are 23 conditions in the resolution. This is an application that we're excited about. That when you think of Research Park, when you think of that area, Miami Valley Research Park, and what our land use plan has it for, research and development and high-tech manufacturing. This is exactly what our long-term plans envision for the area, and we do recommend approval. I'll be here to answer any questions following any public input. Thanks.
Awesome. With that, we'll open the floor for any public input. Is there anyone here that wants to talk either for or against the proposed development? As Mr. Self likes to say, don't be shy. Step on up. Did we have any written input? No. Okay, perfect. With that, I will close the public portion of this, and I will start to my left this time for any questions.
All right, thank you. I just have a couple questions for staff. Hopefully very simple. So, my first question is, you said that the majority of the employees are going to be shift work in 2 shifts. Do we anticipate having the influx and outflux of employees at a single moment in time, overflowing research?
No, the research was built for the increased amount. It was built for this kind of facility. It was 2 lanes going eastbound and 2 lanes going westbound. Our engineer did talk about seeing if there is a warrant for a traffic signal, but that would be up to the applicant if they wanted a traffic signal. But really, this road's built for the amount of cars. You're talking 300. If there are 325 cars in the parking space at max, it can handle that and then some.
And my only other question is, on a couple of the drawings, there's a shaded section pertaining to the possible addition in the back. And there's also, in those drawings, there's a shaded portion for maybe a third entrance on the west side of the property. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, you
Anticipated?
can see here on this, they do show that 210,000 square foot addition. You know, there's, right now, that's just long-term planning. That's not any time frame for an immediate future. I mean, if it becomes we anticipate it to be super successful, but I mean, if they find out they outgrow their space really quickly, you know, that is a pre-planned area for expansion. And there is an area for a third access point should they need it. This area, you can see on the far western property line, is a 100-foot buffer. You know, we had them keep that in the zoning should in the future we want to put a public road through there. That would give us the opportunity, but also it gives a good screening between this and the golf course to the west.
Good. That's all I have. Thank you.
No questions.
No questions. All right. Mr. Hack?
No questions.
No questions. All right. Well, unfortunately, I'm just I'm invoking Mr. Self here, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask a couple questions. The argon tanks. I noticed the language in there was unless they have to be painted a specific safety color. Those two pictures you showed of white tanks, were those actual argon tanks?
That's just, I just looked up argon tank and that's what I came up with. Just to give I was looking for a comparable size tank. I mean, the color, there could be regulations on.
Yeah, so the
and I didn't
worry
want
is
to try to
they're
supersede
far
them.
away, they're really tall, and if they have to be painted bright yellow, why wouldn't we just avoid the whole paint and just provide some rough screening, like a tree or two, to block their complete view from the road? Because I'll be honest, as soon as somebody sees tanks like that, that's when the questions start rolling. Is it cheaper to plant 2 trees in front of those tanks to keep them from interstate view than dealing with next door for the next year on what's being stored in these tanks?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to hide the tanks, and ideally they will be painted white. And I just wasn't sure if there was some federal regulation because of the materials that they're storing in it that they're required to have it a color.
There are certain tanks, yes, in industrial.
And I didn't want to try to create an issue where they had to paint a certain color, and then that was unacceptable. And so, the idea is to get them to paint them white to match and blend in with the building.
Okay. I guess in the last 2 questions I actually have are for the applicant. So if somebody could. So the first question I had, who's going to be performing the site work? 'Cause I know you listed the architects and developers. In my line of work, that's where the most dirt and other things can get on the road, and you have some that are very, very good at keeping dirt and debris off the road, and others that aren't. So you know who's going to be doing the general excavation on that job?
Subcontractor's not been selected yet, so once we get through the final design, that'll be competitively bid. FCL builders will hold those contracts, but on a project this nature on a 54-acre site, it'll be a very qualified.
I was just curious if you'd already selected in case it was one of a handful that not a big fan of. The other part, it was just more of a suggestion from the turnaround on your truck lane. You brought up a good point with this third lane of traffic. I deal a lot with logistics in my professional world. You're going to have a safety issue when you bring your trucks back around that bend. There's not going to be enough of a turning radius for them to be able to make that turn. They're going to go out and they're going to go into the oncoming lane. So you're either going to have to put up some safety, whether it's mirrors or a green-red signal or something like that. But that turn is going to be really, really dangerous to be able to get a fully loaded 53-footer all the way in there and get that turn.
Outbound.
Yeah, coming outbound. Inbound, you have no problem. You've got that turnaround circle there because you don't have any incoming traffic to impede them if they can't stay to the complete outside of it. On the return trip, they have to stay on the complete outside or on the inside. Otherwise, that other truck can't get around, and if there's no mirrors or anything. So just more of a suggestion from the safety standpoint, the layout. That third lane will completely clear up that whole thing if you make it a circle. But so anyway, so that was it. I'm really excited. I think this is a great project for the city. So excited.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just in terms of the, I heard you mention dirt on the road and stuff like that. One of the things we do require is a street sweeping bond be posted. It's a $500 bond, but if they don't clean up the dirt and we have to go out and use city trucks to do it, then we would reimburse ourselves with that bond. But,
Okay. And the only reason I ask is it's such a large site, the potential for buildup and stuff over time is.
Right, yeah, we would make sure that, it's safe. I mean,
Okay.
the dirt on the road wouldn't be safe for people to drive past.
No, I think it's awesome. I'm excited. All right, I will take a motion.
Alex?
Don't do that.
Mr. Chair, I would motion to approve PUD 20-2 SSP number 1 with 23 conditions.
Look for a second.
I'm going to second that.
All right, let's go on.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Mr. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Height,
Yes.
Mr. Loftus.
Yes. And with that, PUD 20-2 SSP number 1 with the attached 23 conditions is approved. And we are fresh out of cases. So I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn.
Sir, I'll second.
And we'll do that by general consensus.
Yes.